Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. I had a chance to see Venom: The Last Dance. This will be my review of the movie. They've been marketing it as the end of the Venom solo movies in the setup for a much bigger Noel crossover storyline down the road. So we'll cover whether or not I think it delivered on that promise, and it was a satisfying conclusion. Like, did they go Madam Web disaster or like full Joker 2 where the movie tries to spite all the fans of the previous movies? Or did they pull more of a Deadpool and Wolverine and just go for pure fun and nostalgia to close this chapter down and at least try to make a movie that delivered for the fans? If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There's a bunch of Spider-Man related stuff happening in the next couple of years. Many different Spider-Man movies, not just the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies in the MCU. Of course, there are a couple post-credit scenes, so be sure to stay after the movie for the entire credits, and I will do a breakdown of those and all the Easter eggs from the rest of the movie later this week after it actually comes out. If you chance to see the movie early, please don't post spoilers for that stuff on this video. Don't worry, we will post all the spoilery videos later this week. Speaking of which, addressing the Spider-Man size elephant in the room, I don't consider it a spoiler to say the Spider-Man is not in this movie, so you need to temper your expectations when you go to see this. Like, don't go expecting to see a ton of Spider-Man related stuff. Probably one of the biggest complaints, and it's a fair complaint against all the Venom trilogy movies so far, is they've been so light on the Spider-Man of it all. But the movie does address the Spider-Man No Way Home post-credit scene where Eddie was briefly teleported to the MCU and had that scene with the bartender before leaving a piece of the symbiote behind when he was teleported back to the Venom. You address that stuff. And do prepare yourself for a very Noel-light movie because they lean so hard on him during the trailers. Just don't get too excited about seeing a bunch of him in this movie. It is very light on his character as well, too. So I'm sure that will probably be one of the other big complaints after the movie, is you saw him so much in the trailers, but really not that much in the actual movie. It's more of a setup for future Noel crossover movies. That was probably one of the other big disappointments of the film, is that so much of it felt like it was setting up other future movies. Probably the other biggest question, the movie did not go full Madam Web, so I consider that a really good thing. Like, it wasn't Web in time. The movie is a mess, yes, but not a full-blown disaster in the way that Madam Web was. I would say it's a mess on the same level of Deadpool and Wolverine's story just a little while ago. As good as Deadpool and Wolverine, I'll talk about some of the weaker points that really pulled the movie down. But if you remember the actual story from Deadpool and Wolverine, it doesn't make a ton of sense. Like, it's a Frankenstein movie from like a bunch of other previous scripts from Deadpool and Wolverine, different versions of the movie. Same thing seemed like it happened with Venom: The Last Dance. By far, though, the best part of this movie was all the Eddie and the Venom symbiote relationship stuff with just the two of them together. Like the way that they talk about their bond, they're running across the country, Thelma and Louise style. Think of the movie as a Thelma and Louise road trip style movie with Venom and Eddie being chased across the country by both the military, like Eddie being chased by the military, and Venom's creator, Noel, god of symbiotes, chasing the Venom symbiote down. So if you enjoyed all the Eddie and the Venom scenes, like the two of them together just having their weird relationship through each of the Venom movies, you will enjoy this movie. Like, it leans hard on that because I feel like when they were working on the movie, they sensed that that was actually really working. But if you hated all those scenes with them together bonding, like all their apartment scenes in the last movie and in the previous movie with them just becoming really, really good friends, then you probably will not enjoy this movie. Because it does lean really heavily on that aspect. You could tell while they were making it, they wanted to pay off this long-running relationship that the two of them have had since the first movie. I don't consider it a spoiler to say that they do go full Deadpool and Wolverine with the nostalgia of their entire relationship across its history. There are a couple moments in the film where the sentimentality moments they lean on are similar things that you saw in Deadpool. Like, they lean on similar types of tropes and storytelling tricks that Deadpool and Wolverine used. They get really, really emotional during a couple different points. So, like, if you're really invested in the Eddie and Venom relationship, this does pay that off pretty well. Tom Hardy was fantastic. He kind of does double duty as the Venom symbiote and as Eddie. Like, most people just see him walking around as Eddie Brock, but he actually does the voice of the Venom symbiote. They just change his voice in post-processing. So you have to imagine that he's essentially playing two characters at any given time when the symbiote and Eddie are together on screen. Probably one of the reasons why they've been able to get these movies out so quickly. Also leads to a lot of story and script problems too, which are very evident across this entire movie. If it wasn't clear from the previous movies too, the relationship that Eddie has with the symbiote is meant to be a closer relationship, like a closer bond than he had with Anne Wang before she dumped him in the first movie. Like, that's how close they're meant to be. They actually do a good job of paying that off throughout the movie so that the emotional impact is there when they're under threat of being permanently separated from each other. You actually do worry about what they're going to do without each other. Will they ever see each other again? Like I said, Thelma and Louise kind of vibes, going out blaze of glory. Here's where we get to the bad parts of the movie, and there are a couple of glaring things that just do not work. Some of the bigger appointments, the stuff that really drug the movie down, that hurt the pacing, are the more meta MCU big universe building kind of Noel stuff, especially when it came to the Xenophage storyline. During the movie, Noel sends the Xenophage to try and recover the Venom symbiote because it has something that he needs in order to free himself from the Clintar that had been imprisoning him across the universe, which acts kind of like their home planet. The symbiotes are created from pieces of his body. They're called the Clintar. They formed a prison for him, keeping him there, just like the comics. Sony is using Noel in the movie to set up their own much larger version of Avengers Endgame style event movie for the Spider-Man spin-off characters, like all the other characters that it would want to put in that. We will see who survives Sony's house cleaning because they are using this movie to do a lot of house cleaning and pivot hard into the Venom mythos. Looking at you, all you Madam Web characters, Morbius, it is definitely not going to be Morbin time after this. We'll talk more about all those future plans and the stuff that the movie actually sets up later this week when we get to the spoiler videos. If you're a longtime comic book fan, you've been reading the Venom comics, you've been reading the Noel comics like King and Black, you'll understand instantly what they're setting up. But all that larger multiverse, big crossover, future movie setup, meta aspect of the story really throws off the pace of the film. And maybe they had a decent script and a lot of stuff got cut out during filming. Maybe there are longer deleted scenes. But if you remember, Kelly Marcel, who wrote all the different Venom movies, is actually directing this movie now. And it's her first movie she's ever directed. So even though they put their time and energy into appeasing the fans, like they tried to make a movie that the fans would enjoy, unlike Joker 2. So I do credit them for that. It does lead to a lot of script and pacing issues, and that's on her. If you watch the earlier Venom movies, this is no surprise. There were a bunch of pacing issues, a bunch of script issues during Venom Let There Be Carnage and the first Venom movie, so it's no different in this film. Like, this film is really no different than the previous Venom movies, so if you hated those previous Venom movies, you're probably not going to like this movie that much either. The way all that big B-story, universe-expanding Noel stuff exists in the theatrical cut of the movie, it just doesn't make a ton of sense if you're not a comic book reader, so it might be a little confusing, throw you off during different parts of the film. But if you consider yourself just a casual fan of these, you do enjoy big action set pieces, you will probably enjoy that aspect of the film because the stunts are better in this movie than in the previous movies. They really pushed the PG-13 rating as far as it could go, but in my mind, they should have just done this as a rated R movie and gone the extra mile like Deadpool and Wolverine. The real reason why they did it PG-13 is they really, really want families to take their little kids to go see this movie just so they can earn more money on it. Sometimes that does not always work. I don't think it's going to work in the case of this movie. Deadpool and Wolverine would have made more money if it would have been PG-13 and younger kids would have been able to go see it. Kudos to you if you still took your little kids to see the R-rated version of Deadpool and Wolverine. When it actually comes to the story itself, all the Venom movies typically have this same problem. The stories tend to be a mess. Venom The Last Dance, though, is better than the last two Venom movies, and there is a little more meat on the bone when it comes to the actual plot and what's actually done during the movie. The previous Venom movies were pretty thin when it came to plot. But this isn't just a Sony problem. Most MCU Marvel movies' weakest parts are the actual scripts themselves. Even Deadpool and Wolverine had a pretty messy script. This is also one of the bigger reasons why a lot of their Disney Plus Marvel series are such a mess. I would say Venom The Last Dance doesn't quite deliver as hard as those emotional payoffs in Deadpool did, but all the Eddie symbiote scenes were solid. There is a lot of hand-waving when it comes to that B story, the Xenophage, the Noel stuff. Rhys Ifans, Juno Temple, Chiwetel Ejiofor were great additions to the movie. Most of the conversation this week with them is going to be more on the Lizard. Like, what's the Lizard doing in this movie? What is Baron Mordo doing here? Like I said, there is a lot of hand-waving when it comes to certain aspects of the movies, the characters. They were pretty underutilized in the movie, and there is a lot of hamming it up, but it's very much in the tone of the type of comedy that the Venom movies have used since the first Venom movie. So if you've seen those previous Venom movies, you won't be surprised by this. Now, addressing the ending, like whether or not this was a satisfying conclusion to the Venom trilogy, Tom Hardy's been saying over and over again recently that he is done playing the Venom character because his contract for the trilogy is up. He always planned this on being his end with the Venom character. But he has been saying, like right after that, he always says he'd love to do stories, more crossovers with Spider-Man. I think that just involves them cutting him a bigger, fatter check. This movie tries to sort of have its cake and eat it too when it comes to setting up future stuff, but also closing down this chapter of Venom and Eddie Brock. There are a couple of clear beats at the end that they can use to continue the Venom storyline if they want to. Venom The Last Dance is more like a traditional Marvel movie in the sense that it's very obvious about what they're trying to set up. Like, there is no mystery about what they tease at the end of this movie. But it does use a lot of storytelling tropes that we just saw in Deadpool and Wolverine to try and make it feel like the end of these two characters being together. Currently, as I'm making this video, the box office for this movie is tracking around $400–500 million, a little less than the last movie did. So you can kind of see it's been diminishing returns for Sony, movie to movie. My hope is they can use the ending of this movie and the promise of a Noel storyline in the future to do a soft reboot on their whole direction for their non-Spider-Man Marvel movies in the next 10 years. The exact same way that Marvel is using Secret Wars to do a soft reboot on the MCU, just fix a lot of their issues, the past Avengers Endgame. Like, everybody could use a little soft reboot on things to retune stuff behind the scenes. The big reminder I would say is there are 2 post-credit scenes, one mid-credits and one actual post-credit scene at the very end, so be sure to stay through all of the credits. Both of them are important to the story of this movie and future movies. I will do a full post-credit scene video later this week, my full breakdown of all the Easter eggs after that, so be sure to go see the movie as soon as possible. Don't wait until it's on streaming, because there is a lot we need to talk about the future of all these Spider-Man related characters and Null just in general. Once you do have a chance to see it, post all your reactions in the comments. Congratulations, Kamax2K4, you're the giveaway winner from my last big video. Please email me on the about page of my channel so I can get your contact details. Everybody click here for that post-credit scene video and here for my full breakdown of all of the Easter eggs. I'll update the links for those as soon as I post those videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.